Hi there, it's John and Liana here
Hi.
from IntoU. So we're looking at our market survey that we've done recently and still ongoing. So you do fill out the survey on the website. There's a couple of free places available for some of our workshops for a couple of people. So I think we said 1st of October 2019 we said to do the survey. But we might continue because we're getting some really interesting responses from people about what's important to them about relationships and how they work. So one really interesting question we got, one subject that people have seen particularly interesting is how do I be free to be me in a relationship? And I think there's a sort of, I think people develop this sort of attitude in life that actually they have to be somebody else. You know, at the start of a relationship, they almost like have to pretend to be what the other person wants. Okay, and then can find themselves rather trapped in a sort of pattern of behaviour which isn't really them. Now we would have a view that, and certainly a view that's really important to me. It's been on my dating profile for the last 10, 15 years. Whenever I've been on a dating website or something, is that in the right relationship, you're even more free to be yourself. Okay, because actually in the right relationship, you not only can be yourself, but you've also got a supporter and a cheerleader and someone who's backing you up and behind you and gets you. They don't have to completely understand you, but they kind of get you as the unique individual you are and the quirks and things that you have, and they kind of and just enjoy you as the person you are. So then you are free to be more yourself. But there's really one issue here about being free to be yourself is do you actually know who you are in the first place? Would be the key answer on this question, I think. What do you mean by being free to be yourself? What are your thoughts on that, Liana?
I think that it comes again back to knowing yourself, loving yourself enough to allow yourself to have this freedom. Yeah, it is a permission. It's the main problem is a permission. The person has to give themselves. So it looks always or looks often like it that the partner is holding you back, the children is holding you back. But it starts with a permission and making that important enough to find an agreement with your partner, to make that part of your life. And I think people use that as an excuse often, that they have not really challenged it, if that can fit in their life. They have that expectation that a relationship is limiting or is taking the freedom away. There are lots of rules about that. And I found more and more when I work with people, it is, start with giving yourself permission to be free and find out what freedom means for you. What would show you, and again, the smallest step, what would show you that you're actually freer in your relationship, and communicate that. And often I found it really works when you allow your partner a bit of freedom as well. So if you sit together and you say, like, what would freedom mean for you and what would freedom mean for me, and how can we implement that in our life? Yeah, so that the partner doesn't feel neglected or there's no resentment going on. But sometimes, like in my relationship, for instance, it was often as well to know, when you have a very considerate partner who thinks they can't do certain things, and as a partner, for instance, I didn't even know there were some desires in these areas. It's to take the risk to let your partner know that there could be improvement to the relationship, because the benefits the family setting or the relationship becomes when one partner or both partners feel freer is amazing. And sometimes the benefits you can bring and allowing yourself or your partner to be freer and do something they experience as freedom, it can, the benefit of that can be enough for the partner to actually agree to that. Yeah, because you're happier, you bring that back into your relationship, you enrich the relationship. So sometimes it doesn't have to be replicated.
Yeah, I think it's a concept here is that in the healthiest relationships, you're two independent. In effect, you're two independent single people who choose to be together most of the time, and sometimes you choose to be apart because there's certain things that you like doing in your life which your partner doesn't share. So you create time and space for that in your life because that's part of who you are. And I think a lot of couples can actually almost accidentally find themselves in a kind of trap of narrowing down their options and behaviour in a relationship, till both of them actually start to feel trapped and feel like they're not expressing a certain part of their personality. And it's always a good idea. You know, it's a really healthy thing to be asking regularly in a relationship. Do you feel free to be who you want to be in this relationship? Is there any way that I can help you be even more of what you want in life? That's such a gift that you offer in a partnership to say, you know, are there things you'd like to do that you're not doing at the moment, and can I help you do that? And the answer may be, I'm not sure. You know, I've thought about this. Perhaps I might want to give this a try. And your job as a partner is to go, that sounds good to me. Why don't you give it a try? You may hate it, but I don't want to be, you know, in terms of your point of view, you don't want to be in a relationship in 5 years' time where the other person wishes they'd done a certain thing and now it's too late, and felt kind of trapped or held back by the relationship.
And sometimes relationships break up because of that, and without actually exploring if there is freedom to be gained by allowing themselves to do things they maybe have in their mind. And sometimes, and that happens actually often, when the person has the allowance to do, you know, if there's a permission from themselves as well as from the partner, they often don't want to do it that often as they thought they would. Because it is about that feeling of freedom. It's not always that they have to excessively use that. Because, you know, when we feel free, we are quite happy where we are. Yeah, and to not see that, or if I give them permission, they never will be here. That is based on insecurity about yourself. Yeah, because you don't want to trap somebody to be with you. Yeah, so if somebody is not wanting to be with you, and you're trapping them in that relationship, that is not a happy place to be, not for your own confidence, and not for creating intimacy or connection. So to let the partner be free and choose you every day, and that obviously in certain cases, you know, when you don't feel good enough, that is a challenging thing to do. But that is then work you can do on yourself. You know, if you love yourself, if you know your own worth, it gets easier and easier to allow yourself the freedom as well as the other person, and to you know, create the life you really want. Such.
And so it's a really important area. You know, how do you be yourself in a relationship? And couples really fall into the trap of behaving like they think the other person wants them to be. When honestly, in a healthy relationship, what you want the other person to do is to feel free to explore who they are, and stretch their sense of who they are, and try things out and explore new things. And your job is to be the cheerleader and supporter in that relationship. And if you can't do that, then there's something else going on, you know. And
often competition of time, or competition, or some resentment going on, because why would you not be the cheerleader of the person you love? Yeah, there is really something where to search in yourself. There is something not in line with that relationship and how you're living your life at the moment, and it's well worth to try to change. I wanted to say one thing about compromise and sacrifice. Sacrifice, I learned, which I found really interesting. Sacrifice sounds always like you giving up and the other one takes advantage, more or less. But actually what sacrifice means is that you choose to give something without expectation. And we often talk about compromise in relationships, but when we can get to a place where we actually choose to give that without expecting anything back, that will give us a lot of good feelings. That will give us a lot of you know, coping skills in ourselves, and make our life more more exciting and richer.
Well, I mean, if you look at the world of positive psychology, there's very much a kind of one habit that the positive psychologists state is random acts of kindness kind of thing. It's that sense of actually, for that person, I'm going to do them a favour or make their life easier in some way, and not expect anything back in return. Because the very act in itself is a reward in itself. It's a real gift.
And it is massively rewarded in the brain.
Yeah.
It's one of the giving without expectation is one of the biggest reward. You get the biggest reward from the brain for doing that, more than receiving, and to allow yourself to look for opportunities which you can create in your life with your partner to do just that. To just say, I sacrifice that hour without expecting my partner to do the same thing or give me something back, just for his well-being or her well-being, is such a benefit for yourself. And it sounds crazy, but try it out, because it is fascinating or what you can achieve for yourself in a sense of self-worth, in a sense of loving yourself, and gratitude.
The research is in. Random acts of kindness without any expectation help you live longer, live a more satisfying life, be happier, be more optimistic, and have a greater sense of purpose in life as well. All those kind of things, and I think the question we have is, if you can't do that for the other person in your relationship, or you feel reluctance to, there's something else going on in that relationship which isn't working, and that's worth exploring. And it may, and honestly, it may be something really simple. It may be, for example, you might have a really clear example in my mind is when you get a couple and one partner decides that they want to go to university or study with the Open University and get some qualifications. And what happens with that other person is, then my partner will be more qualified than I am. There's a sense of what comes up for them is, I'm going to be losing something. I'm going to be in a lower status in life because my partner's got a master's degree and I've only got a diploma or something. That's a very clear example where that's your problem, not the person who wants to get educated. What is that saying about you and how you regard status and value in a relationship? That's time to really check in and go, what is that about? Where does that come from? It often comes from parents, often comes from a kind of class kind of background and cultural background, and actually says nothing about the relationship other than some kind of rule that's come up for you. And what happens? What happens is when you let go of that rule, that can be really liberating and life enhancing. That actually, wait a minute, it doesn't matter, what qualifications I have. What matters is my partner's sense of satisfaction and achievement, and it's something that they want to do. So and it's my job to get behind that, not be a boundary or resistance in some way. And when you get the plot with that's a happy place to be.
But again, the most important person in your life is yourself. So look after your own health, your own happiness, and sacrifice is good to a certain point. It can't be that you sacrifice more than you're willing to give, because that will be an imbalance. So you have to first really allow yourself to be your number one, and all the other things are add-ons.
And I would. I completely agree with that, and I would add in that example of one person being more educated than the other. In that moment when you feel that reluctance, ask yourself, actually, and this is referring to looking after self first. What would give me the same sense of satisfaction, as my partner's having? For them, it's doing an Open University degree. For me, what would be the same kind of level of satisfaction? And it may be something completely different and unrelated to what the other person is doing, but resisting the change the other person wants to make because in some way it makes you feel less valued. That's a path to nowhere, and that's all about you and how and the sense of self-worth that you have, and that's not looking after yourself actually. Okay, hope that makes sense. Okay, and we'll see you soon.